2002, 2006, 2010, 2013, and in 2016. It all comes together in an all-new Pokémon adventure. Pokémon Sun and Pokémon Moon.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but I am so hyped for these games to come out. And if you're like me, you want to transfer some sick-ass Pokemon from games like these to these. And that's exactly what I'm going to be showing you today. So, I'm going to show you how to transfer Pokemon from Generations 3, 4, and 5 all the way to Generation 6 and get them ready for Pokemon Sun and Moon. For this video, I will be using Emerald for Generation 3, Platinum for Generation 4, White 2 for Generation 5, and Omega Ruby for Generation 6. Now, if you need to know how to transfer from a specific generation, skip to one of these times in the video. Alright, so here is what you're gonna need. You're gonna need an original Nintendo DS. You'll know you have the right one because if you look at the bottom, there'll be a Game Boy Advance slot. You'll also need a Generation 3 game, whether that's Ruby, Sapphire, Fire Red, Leaf Green, or Emerald. And of course, a Generation 4 game. This next part is super important. You want to keep this part in mind. For transferring Pokemon from Generation 3 to Generation 4, you can only transfer 6 Pokemon at a time. No more, no less. You want to make sure your Pokemon are in Box 1 in your PC. You cannot transfer Pokemon that know HM moves, and finally, you can only transfer Pokemon every 24 hours. Okay, now that all that's out of the way, let's get right into it. So to start off, we are going to need a team to transfer. Let's use this Mudkip team I quickly caught in Pokemon Emerald, and we'll use that for our example. Make sure you put this team in Box 1 and make sure that they are all ready to transfer. Now in your Nintendo DS, you want to pop in your Generation 3 game, your Generation 4 game, and then once you load in your Generation 4 game, you should see Migrate From and then whatever game you chose. Select that, and now on the bottom screen, select Yes twice, and then you want to choose which Pokemon you want to transfer. Just remember that when Pokemon are transferred, they cannot be transferred back. Once they have transferred, head over to the Pal Park and start catching. Make sure you have a Surf Pokemon on your team so you can catch your Water Pokemon. After you've caught them all, check your PC box and make sure that they are there and you are set to go. Alright, so here is what you are going to need. You are going to need 2 kinds of Nintendo DS's, whether that's a regular DS or a 3DS, it doesn't matter as long as you have 2. You'll also need a Generation 4 Pokemon game and a Generation 5 Pokemon game. For example purposes, let's call this one DS number 1 and this one DS number 2. This next part is super important. You want to keep this part in mind. You can only transfer 6 Pokemon at a time, no more, no less. You also want to make sure Pokemon are in Box 1 in your PC, and you cannot transfer Pokemon that know HM moves. For Generation 5, you can only transfer Pokemon through Poketransfer, which is only available after the Elite Four, so beat the game first. Alright, now that that's over and done with, let's get started. We'll be using the same Mudkip team that we used from earlier. So in DS number 1, with your Generation 5 game, you want to head over to the Poketransfer and then launch the wireless communications, which, long story short, opens up the download play. In DS number 2, you want to go to the download play and download the software when it comes up. Still in DS number 2, you want to choose your Pokemon you want to transfer, and then you gotta play this minigame to complete the transfer. must remember that when Pokemon are transferred, they cannot be transferred back. In DS number 1, check your PC and make sure that they are there, and then you are set to go. Alright, so here is what you are going to need. You are going to need a 3DS with Pokemon Bank and the free download of Poké Transporter. You are also going to need a Generation 5 Pokemon game, and of course a Generation 6 Pokemon game. Let's keep using the Mudkip team that we had from earlier. So in your 3DS, just pop in your Generation 5 game and load up Poké Transporter. Once you're ready, transfer the Pokemon. After that's done, close the app, pop in your Generation 6 game, and load up Pokemon Bank. Select your file, head over to your transfer box, and congratulations! Your Pokemon are now ready for Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon. So whether you want to leave them in your Generation 6 game to raise them up a little bit, or leave them in your Pokemon Bank to get them ready to transfer for Generation 7, that's completely up to you. Hey, good job, you made it all the way to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. If this video helped you out even a little bit, or if you learned something new, leave a like down below. It helps me out hugely and it motivates me to make more videos. And hey, let's get a conversation started. What are you guys most excited for Pokemon Sun and Moon? And if Pokemon Sun and Moon are already out, what are your guys' favorite features in it? For me, I feel like I'm going to be most excited for the trainer customization. Mainly because you can take off your hat and put on glasses, and there's going to be way more features than in X and Y. Oh my gosh, I absolutely cannot wait for it. I am so excited. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in another video.